Hey guys, this is Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com. And this video today is about, it's not just about muscle. There's going to be a lot of small things that we cover today on this that I hope starts to change your training styles and starts to give you an inclination of what we're doing both on our training apps and in our manuals to give you a better understanding of our training philosophy. So let's get to it. So I think the one big thing that we have to be concerned with is bone. Bone is one of those things that allows us to have a solid structure and gives the ability for muscles to pull on something. This pulling on something creates motion. And without bones, we would just be a blob of passive tissue. And I think what we have to understand is that when we weight train, bones also get accustomed to and adapt to resistance, which is ultra important whether you're trying to be a great lifter or you're trying to stop the aging process. Oftentimes, many older adults get osteoporosis and start having fractures because the resistance on the bone becomes less and less as we age. This can be heavily modified on a positive fashion if we just do some resistance training. Now, we provide an over 50 2 times a week weight training, which has been shown to have massive amounts of results physically on the Patreon channel for $10 a month. So if you're over 50, you don't really like to go to the gym much, and you can maybe sacrifice about an hour to an hour and a half total in a whole week of training, you can maintain or gain a lot of benefits in your training. And a lot of it's based on connective tissue and bone. The other thing we might need to keep in mind when developing a strength training program that we keep in mind here at Winning Strength with the apps and the training protocols that we put on Patreon is that the mechanical strength of the tendons and ligaments increase and remodel themselves at a much slower rate than muscle tissue. This might be due to blood supply, spacing, vascularization. There's periods of lower training for injury prevention and long-term progression. So if your training protocol doesn't have built-in deloads to make sure that these areas are taken into account, you could have a big problem, which is why we do certain deloads at certain times in the workouts. So if you're training a particular system that doesn't have back-off rates to let these areas recover, you're probably doing yourself more harm than good. The other thing that I think this ties into that a lot of people don't think about is kinetic energy and stretch reflex. When we focus on training the ligaments, tendons, and passive tissue alongside it working with the active tissue of the muscles, we can create a very good base of elastic energy. And a lot of times when you're strength training, although you may think that you're getting stronger, sometimes what you're doing is actually mastering the ability to utilize elastic energy. For instance, doing dynamic effort work with 30 to 40% like we prescribe, most times is very, very good at training the central nervous system in order to utilize, store, and retract kinetic energy. This is very, very important in upwards of 30% of your progressive ability. This means that if you're only focusing on muscle hypertrophy in certain sections of your training, it could be a huge issue in not making you more explosive and learning how to store this kinetic energy. So although many people will refute the utilization of the dynamic effort method in using plyometrics for strength, I think we can see that if it amounts to about 30% of our ability to get better, that we probably need to be utilizing some form of that style of training in our normal training apparatuses or programs. So again, if somebody's not telling you that you need to be doing speed work or doing plyometric work once the time is right for that, probably the training program is garbage. We just got done finishing an athletic base training cycle in the Patreon top tier workouts that was 5 or 6 weeks of plyometric training in order to go back into weightlifting. Now, the residuals of this don't happen overnight. This means that when you start training in this particular fashion, it doesn't mean the next workout you're going to initially be stronger. But if you're basing all of your training in 4 and 6 month blips, then I think that's when you start to see some major progression happen and also start to see that the body is adapting to training in other ways other than just muscle hypertrophy. So just to recap on this video, I think the most important thing we have to understand is it's just not about muscle. I think we need to understand that bone needs time in order to adjust to and adapt to training. Ligaments and tendons need time to adapt to training. Fascia and other soft tissue can also accumulate and help with strength training, i.e. through stretch reflex and kinetic energy, upwards of about 30%. So if you're not doing the dynamic effort method, you could be missing on that 30%. If you're not doing some of the jump training and the shock training that we do on both Patreon workouts and some on the application workouts or the app workouts, you could be missing a huge factor in your training capacity. This was proven many, many years ago by Verkhoshansky, a lot of the different Russians, and a lot of the other different references that we'll have when the book comes out that you guys will see that I dug for many years to put together. The point is that, guys, quit thinking everything is about muscle and start thinking about everything as an entire whole system, and your training will be better. We can help you at winningstrength.com. Please come and visit us and talk to you guys soon.